Sounds good. All right, so we're just going to start with a woolly bugger today. Tried and true classic. It's probably caught more freshwater fish than any other fly there is. Start by wrapping your thread on the hook. Start on the front, then wrap it back to right where the shank of the hook bends. About right there. Can everybody see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does everyone see it as a spotlight video? Is he the biggest on the screen? Just making sure.
I do, yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and then the marabou, I always try to get really good quality marabou for these, like blood quills or extra selects. And you take the marabou, rip off basically the bottom half. And if I'm going too fast for anybody, just let me know. Okay, so you have just this top half bit. Most of the time now when I do buggers, I just do one strand these days instead of multiples, unless I'm doing different colors. So then I pinch it about that big, right? And it should be roughly the length of the shank of the hook. Okay, you just kind of measure it like that, pinch it down on the back, and then tie it in by wrapping the thread. Okay, and then everything that's in the front on that is garbage. You can cut that off. And so, and just for fun on this one, we're going to jazz it up and put a little flash in the tail. So I've got just Flashabou here. I grabbed some metallic black stuff just because I thought it looked cool with this fly. And I'll just cut off 3 or 4 strands. I start by just laying it down with that marabou, maybe a shade longer than the marabou. Wrap it in on one side, and then fold it over to the other side, wrap it in again. Cut off your excess about the length of the marabou, if just maybe a shade longer than it. Okay, the body, I'm going with, I've got some crystal chenille or whatever it is. I think this is medium-sized crystal chenille. It's got some peacock effect to it. I grabbed it, I thought it'd look cool on the fly. Whatever you got will work. Just tie that in the back with the long end trailing in the back, like that. And then the other part of this fly will, of course, be the palmered hackle, which if some of you have never tied a fly before, I'll explain that when we get to it. We're going to go with red. Why not? I thought red and black would be a nice coronavirus theme. Pull out a feather that's got nice wide tapers at the bottom before it gets this webby stuff, okay, the soft stuff, and it kind of tapers really fat, okay? If it was a dry fly feather, it'd be long with not much of a taper in that size. But a woolly bugger feather's got a big old taper as it gets bigger down to the bottom. All this webby stuff, the soft, feathery stuff, pull that off. We don't want that. You could leave just a touch of it, just like that, maybe just a little bit for just a touch of fluff, okay? And then we're going to tie this in by the tip of the feather. Anybody have any questions? Nope, okay. So glue, I don't tie knots anymore on any flies at all. I use Zap-A-Gap. You can use any other comparable super glue you want. At this point, I put a drop of glue where I've tied all this stuff on, and I'll wait 5-10 seconds and it'll set up. It's rock hard. Something to remember, notice that I always kept my thread right here at the back. So I tied everything kind of on top of each other, keeping it back here. It's important, especially for you first timers, that you always start your fly at the back and move forward. There's only a few exceptions to that. Now, if you guys want, this is not, you don't have to, but you could add lead to it. So I have a big roll of .035 soldering lead. You can buy it at a fly shop in little spools. If you're lucky, you can find it at a soldering shop, an electrical shop, and get a big spool like that. It's really handy and cheap. The lead does not need to be tied in. Just put it on the hook just in front of where you tied all that stuff in and wrap it forward. to about, oh, there. You got to leave yourself lots of space towards the head of that fly because everything will just all pile up on you quick. And then just manipulate it with your fingers to lay it down. Okay. Now, go ahead and bring your thread forward. Leave yourself lots of space from that eye of the hook. That's one of the biggest mistakes you can make on any fly, is not leaving a lot of space. I'm leaving roughly 1/8 of an inch. If you can, I think you can see that in the video, I hope. Leave yourself lots of space for time. So the first thing we're gonna bring forward then is the body, which is the chenille, okay? Nice, even wraps, one on top of the other. If you wanna make the fly bomb-proof, you can coat all that lead with glue, and then as you wrap this forward, it's all gonna seize up with that glue. But this crystal chenille is pretty tough stuff, especially the medium size, so I'm not gonna worry about it. And again, leaving yourself lots of space to the head of that hook, right about there. Tie it off. And then we're done with that. You can cut that off. You've got a big, bushy body. Now, the hard part of this fly would be the palm ring, which is wrapping this feather. So now here's the other trick. We tied it in just by the tip because we want it to taper and get bigger towards the head. The other trick is, if you have any feather, if you look at a feather close enough, you will see that there's a concave side and there's a convex side, okay? If you remember it or think about it, you want the concave side of the feather to lay down against the body of the fly. It'll make the fibers of the feather splay better towards the back and more uniform. So I just start wrapping one in front of the other, not real tight wraps. Space them out a little bit. Your goal is you kind of want to get to the head of that fly and still have a couple wraps of that feather left to make a nice big bushy head. And I'm smooth it out with my fingers here and there to keep it nice and even. Okay, holding that up. Tie it off. A couple wraps. You can do a couple more to pull it nice and tight. And then you can cut that off. So now, if you left yourself plenty of space at the head of that fly, which I still got a bunch, I can take a look at this fly, because just like all fly tying, there's a lot of improvisation you could be doing, and say, what else do I want to do to this? Do I want to add something to the head, or maybe some flash going down the back, whatever. For fun, I'm going to dub in a green head, because I've got enough space to do it. And if some of you were tied this fly and you got to your head and you're like, oh crap, I'm really too tight to my eye, don't worry about the dubbing. Just do some wraps, put some glue on that head, and you're done. But since I've got the space, we'll put on a green head like a green-headed monster, which those of you that have fished like the Agushik or the Ongoki or some of those other streamer rivers for rainbows, you know that green-headed monster is a clutch fly. Use it a lot. Okay, so all I did was I took my fingers and just rolled them with that material to get it on there, okay? There's special things like dubbing brushes or special tools that'll intertwine in your thread. I really think they're not necessary unless you're doing like competition level dubbing. This will just be all we really need. And a bunch of wraps right at the head, being a little tight, so I think I'll just pull off the rest of that dubbing like that. And I could leave it nice and loose like that, which kind of looks cool, or I could cut it tight, so it's more of an egg-shaped head, either or. And I'm right at my eye now, so pull that stuff back with my fingers. A few wraps to get it all nice and even. I might be even a little too tight to my eyes, but that's okay. And then again, I don't do knots anymore at all. I just put a drop of glue on that head, wait 10 seconds, 5 seconds, and you can cut your thread. It's done. I think it looks cool with that long fibers. Do we have a question?
Yeah, what bug is that representing?
It's, from the fish's standpoint, it could be anything really, and that's the great thing about buggers is a lot of times the fish are seeing this thing coming over their head swinging or stripping, and so for them, for their eyes looking at it, it looks like the shape of a sculpin, a minnow, a leech. If you're fishing in Alaska, it could even represent a actual lamprey, which that's a huge food source in Alaska that a lot of people don't really know about. So really anything, or it could just be something that really ticked them off and they'll eat it.
Yeah.
Got 3 different colors that we use it a lot in Alaska: the green, the red, and the black. This could work on salmon, trout. Smaller version probably on grayling. Well, grayling will eat something this big too, though. So anyway, let's do another one. Did anybody have any other questions?
So I do have a question real quick.
Sure.
If you wanted to get materials, could you just get them from a craft store, or do you really recommend that they should come from like a fly tying shop?
No, that's a great question. Absolutely, you should try to get what you can from a craft store before you go to an actual fly shop, because a fly shop is going to gouge you on some stuff that you could get at a craft store. Like this chenille stuff here, you can find in a wide range of colors in giant spools of it for $5, $6, $7 at a craft store, where if you go to a fly shop, you'll get 1 or 2 yards for $5, $6.
Right. Okay.
So other things like the marabou, you kind of got to go to a fly shop. The flash, you can get that off of Christmas trees. Usually you can get better quality stuff from a fly shop though. The hackle, this stuff, you can get it at a craft shop sometimes too, if you can find quality stuff. And that's the key, is finding good quality stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so let's do another one. I'm going to do one with slightly different materials, see how that comes out. Start just by throwing my thread on again. Do a purple one. Marabou first. And this one's already been pre-stripped. I must have been really bored one day because I stripped 1 pound of purple marabou by hand. That must have took me a long time, and I must have been really bored. But we'll strip a little bit more off of it anyway. Once again, tail should be roughly the length of the shank of the hook. I've got leftover black flash still, and I'm very cheap, as many of you know, so I'll just use that up before I go to something else. Leave a couple of those super long just for fun. Back when I was still young and in better shape than I am now, purple used to be a really big go-to for us in Alaska. We used to use it all the time. I don't know if it's because I just stopped using it or what, but it's just not been a go-to. I still have a bunch in my box, and once in a while I'll break one out and use it for an hour, and then the client will say, well, why'd you take me off of black? Why were we using something that didn't work? And I'll say, I don't know. Marshall and Media, I'm sure you guys can attest to that.
So many times.
For a bugger this size, let's talk about hackle again one more time, because I was about to do black hackle on this thing, but on this size 2, size 4 hook, the stuff I got, it's just not long enough. So like I look at it now, and it doesn't have the good taper, and it's only about 3-4 inches long. Think about that stuff if you're tying this. If you're doing a big fly like this, you've got to have long, almost schloppen style bugger hackle. So we'll go back to the red for now. Again, select the one with a good taper on it. Rip off the bottom stuff. Okay, I'm a huge fan of lead, so I'm going to put lead on this one again. When I was a kid in Montana, we would double or even triple up, wrap them with lead because you'd have to hit the banks quick and then strip it. And boy, if on a cold morning, if that thing hit the back of your head, you had a headache all day. All right. Bring our thread forward, lots of space again, that's very important. A little bit of glue. And I'm not going to do flash on the tail this time. I mean, I'm sorry, I did flash on the tail. I'm not going to do flash on the body because this stuff is so flashy. Oh, and that's the other thing. A lot of woolly buggers, and there's so many variations. There's thousands of different types, but a lot of woolly buggers, they will tie in wire as well and wrap that wire over the top of everything. That does help your hackle from breaking. I just didn't have wire, so I didn't do it. If you have it, by all means, feel free to do it. And like we talked about, try to keep the concave side down on the fly body. I space those out a little too much. If you guys look, I've got way too much material left here by the time I got to the end of my fly. Don't sweat it though, not a big deal. Just wrap it all, the head of your fly, it'll make this big old bushy head. Okay, and then just take your fingers, like the first one, smooth that back, and kind of pinch it all back. A whole bunch of wraps to lock everything down. And it kind of all just flows back, which you would probably do that in the water anyway, but to our eyes, it's more pleasing if they look at it and dry and it's all flowing. We do our drop of glue. Literally 3 seconds, sometimes, boom, done. One with the purple tail. We didn't do the green or the dubbing head on this one because by the time I got to the head, I did all those multiple wraps of hackle. I was like, ah, crap, well, I don't have room to do that. No big deal.
Hey, Zach.
Yeah.
What kind of glue is that you're using?
Called Zap-A-Gap. It was
Zap-A-Gap,
originally
okay.
a glue used for woodwork, carpentry.
That's a classic though, good. Good to know.
Yeah. The guy that taught me how to tie flies introduced me to it. And he used to be a production guy, production tire for a shop in Ennis. And he'd do these when he was really good. He said he could do one of these per minute for production tying. Best I ever got to was like 2 minutes.
Wow.
All right, so let's mix it up now. Maybe we'll do something with some more subdued colors. Something more natural. do a woolly bugger that's become really popular in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And it's even easier than these ones we've been doing.
The Dalai Lama?
No Dalai Lama's brown. Knew somebody was gonna say that. Let's do olive tail. This one is going to eliminate the hackle. So this stuff, and by the way, I get all my stuff through Hairline Dubbin. It's just so I have an account through. They took me on years ago when I first started, so I was just buying my stuff from them. But this, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called Petite Estase or something like that. But it's basically a hackle and body in one. Kind of the original dubbing brush, which those of you that tie know what dubbing brushes are. They're an extremely expensive thing, but God, they look good in the water. So we don't need hackle on this fly because it's going to do multi-purpose. And I'm going to skip flash on the tail just because this is going to be flashy enough. Oops, got to bring my thread forward. Am I going too fast for anybody? Okay. Now this stuff is just one wrap in front of the other, which you could even space it out, but fish aren't going to care if they see a little bit of lead underneath there. It's just the action of this stuff in the water looks so good. And that's it. So that one eliminates a whole step. This fly in the water, it's pretty neat how they look. I kind of cut mine off a little too soon, so we might add a little head to it for fun. So, if you have a product like a skull head or something like that, which is a weighted shaped head you put on the front of this right now, looks really cool. I'll see if I got one. Some of my stuff already sent to Alaska, so I'm not sure if I've got it or not. Nope. But I can do another dubbing head on this thing. Oh wait, I do have one. So that head just slides over the front. Most of your tying heads that are weighted like this, you have to put them on before you do any of the body. Skull heads came out, I think, 15 years ago. They're awesome because you can slide them right over the top of everything. You just got to kind of glue them in pretty good to make them stick. Okay, so we're going to do that, which means I need to build up this head a little bit more. Let's do it with some thread. Or better yet, maybe a little dubbing. Okay. There's a couple ways to put these on. One way is you push it on, then you wrap in the back, cut it off, and then wrap in the front. I'm kind of too lazy to do that. So usually what I do is I push it on with a whole bunch of glue. Okay. So I measure it out, make sure it's about the right length, which it is. And then I put big old dabs of glue on top of that head. Push it on, maybe wait, I don't know, 10 seconds. Didn't even take that long.
Boom.
Boom. Then, to make sure it's bulletproof, do some more wraps in the front, just to kind of lock in that head. Now a little tight to my eye, no big deal, it happens. And this would be a very super heavy fly because we did the lead and these skull heads, which are really heavy. But I mean, if you can imagine that thing in the water, everything kind of lays down, starts to undulate a little bit. Once again, that's your sculpin, that's your minnow, a short little lamprey, or just something that ticks off the fish, you know, and a little more subdued colors, but still lots of flash. Kieran, how much time do we have?
We're on for an hour, but however long you want to go.
Okay, I might do, if you guys want me to, I might do a couple more.
So Zach, I want to suggest, I know we have 2 others that are following along. Would you guys like to share what you guys have gotten done so far?
Sure. Oh, my flies, yes. Okay, so we just did this guy. I don't name it whatever you want. We did this one, which is just a nice flashy Alaska style bugger. And then we did this first one, doesn't have a name. I called it the COVID bugger for fun. But it's kind of a variation of a green-headed monster. Which, by the way, when you're tying these buggers, if you need to knock out a bunch of them for some reason, you could skip any dubbing heads, just tie the bugger, and then slide on colored beads on your line if you wanted to make it into an ESL, which is an egg-sucking leech, or whatever else you want to call it. It works just as well.
You should try some Tricos, bud.
Oh, we're not doing tricos on this. I'm too old for that. Are you tying today, Brown?
No. I haven't unpacked all my stuff.
Zach Brown in the house. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
Real good.
Where are you living, Zach?
We just bought a house in Red Lodge. So.
Oh, wow.
Sweet. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. But we don't have any. We don't have anything really besides a couch and a TV.
I was down in Patagonia with Mimi and Linda a few weeks ago. That was quite.
How was that?
It was great. It was really technical. It's not like Alaska where the fish don't mind if they see the leader. I mean, there we were using 5/0, and if your line hit the water before the fly, you were lost. You didn't get it. So it was really challenging for a novice fly fisherman like me.
Hey, Bill, which rivers were you guys on?
The Rio Grande, and then there were some spring creeks. I can't remember all the names of them.
Do you remember the name of the place you stayed down there? Or?
We were at the Trevelyan Lodge.
Okay.
It was amazing. It was really amazing. Highly recommend it.
Who else is tying on here? Guy, I know you are.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody else?
I'm just trying to fill my boxes.
We're gonna do this time. I want to do a white woolly bugger, and Brown, you're probably gonna laugh because I'm gonna bring this up again. But there's this thing up in Alaska called a Arctic leech. And when you see them, like you see them on the Battle or the Kukakla, anything on the Kukakla system, I run into them. I know they're everywhere else too, but for some reason, You go to the battle and you see them all the time in the sand. It's a big food source. I've seen them in the upper Lagnac, fish nibbling on them.
See the Kvichak.
Yeah, the Kvichak too. So they literally glow. If you look at the material, this kind of UV purplish stuff, this is actually what they look like. It's the coolest looking leech, and it's an actual annelid leech. It's not like a lamprey or something. It's a leech.
And Zach, what's the name of that material?
Again, I don't remember. It's either crystal hackle or petite estase. One of those two.
Yeah, cool.
And I got black thread with this material. I'm actually spacing this out a little bit this time. So just a hint of that black shows up underneath that stuff. Sometimes those little transitions can make all the difference. Just a little bit of black on white, or like we just did red on black, that kind of stuff.
Contrast.
Marshall and Mita, did you guys ever see these Arctic leeches on the Lagnac?
Go ahead.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Up in the upper river, I think we did. Only if they
Yeah,
were
up there.
shown to us.
Didn't we go up to the scallops once and there was a bunch of them up there in July?
I think so.
Yeah.
Did you notice them more a certain time of year or certain month than others, or just?
Well, when I worked the Lagnac, we saw them in opener, the first week opener, they come flushing down the river with the high water. And it was just like the minnows, the trout would go nuts.
Right.
Yeah, that's when I've seen them. A lot of them in this early season.
They're a very extremely inactive thing, though. I mean, it's not like they undulate and move and swim. They just kind of lay there.
Just drift in the current, basically.
Mm-hmm. But this is, I mean, they literally look like this. They glow just like this in the water. Even on cloudy days, you see them just glowing. So, I mean, just like on the Kvichak, like Brown said, I'd throw this all day, or any of those rivers, the Gushik that we fish, on Goki, whatever, Togiak. I'm sure they're in the Togiak. I've never seen them, but I'm sure they got to be there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think we're on that river early enough to really see the big push like you guys are talking about.
Yeah, probably not.
It's always super chalky colored early season.
Oh, yeah. Well, I bet they still find them if we were out there early swinging them. They'll probably find
Yeah,
some of those
probably.
big spring rainbows out there.
Yeah, all the big ones coming back from spawning. I've heard some big ones caught up there early season.
Over on the Connectoc, they used to come down, the guys would start getting them in subsistence nets in April and May. Big.
Oh, really?
It's pretty sad to see them hanging on a rack to feed the dogs, but you know, they got to do what they got to do. So.
I seen a guy cleaning his net early season on the Kvichak when we were setting up boats. Had a bunch of them in there.
Yeah, pretty common.
So I guess the final woolly bugger I'll do, because it's such a versatile pattern, is one that, I mean, a trout would eat, but let's make one just for salmon, for silvers, or technically for kings too, I guess. They might eat it.
Kinks? Would kinks eat it?
Oh God, yes. Which is the real treasure of Bristol Bay.
And this was going to be a pink year, right? For Bristol Bay.
They're all pink ears now. It's so weird now.
Well, they're all pink ears, but some are just bigger than others.
I mean, but even last year on the Togiak, it was almost the same numbers as usual.
That's
It
awesome.
was upsetting.
Hey, Zach, your big flashy red hair tie's covering your camera.
Oh,
It's
thanks.
a good look though.
Yeah. And Hannah, this is stuff I got at a craft store. It was $5. I've had it for 10 years. I can't burn it up fast enough to use it all up.
Perfect.
You should stack the head of that one with some of your beard hair, Zach.
Ooh. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
It's getting pretty long. And you know what, on this one, just for fun, we'll put some dumbbell eyes on it. Why not? Dumbbell eyes on a woolly bugger, because a woolly bugger is, if you were to look at it from its front or its back, basically it's one round shape. So if I'm making this fly for, let's say, silvers or any other salmon or even trout, and I don't want to snag up a bunch, put your dumbbell eyes on the top, and then that will keel your fly. In other words, it'll make it turn upside down. And then that hook will, of course, ride above all the junk that's in the water, the dirt, whatever, branches, trees. Now, if you're doing like an articulated leech, you reverse that. So you've got your trailer and you have your eyes on the bottom, but your trailer, you take that octopus hook and you run it so it's hooked up. The same principle. Vise is getting so old. I need to get a new one. Everything shakes loose every time I tie something.
What would you buy?
I'd get a Montana Mongoose again. I've really liked this vise. It's been a great vise. Okay, so when you get to the dumbbell eyes on this fly, there's a lot of ways to do this. I usually do the crisscross applesauce. One that way, one that way.
I knew there was a name for that technique, but thanks for
crisscross applesauce, isn't it?
Yeah, love it. Now I know what to call it. I do it all the time, but I never thought it had a name.
Yeah. Okay, and with your fingers, because this, once again, is that hackle and body in one, just pull that stuff back. Big old head like that. It's a shaggy dog, but in the water, it'll kind of lay down and undulate.
Looks like a Wood River pink fly.
Ooh, you know it. Imagine how many pinks you could catch with this. So you guys, most of you know that in Alaska, most of the time we're running for silvers or kings, or even the pinks, or the chum. Obviously, they're much bigger. This, I'm sure, would work, especially the togiak, where there's so many silvers are the good news. I mean, there's just so many of them. They'd probably eat this all day long too, but just out of what we do, all of us, I mean, we always just run the articulated stuff or jigs. But hey, this is basically a silver jig with a hook that's slightly too small. So anyway, there's a few variations of a woolly bugger. There are thousands more that we could be doing of different sizes, colors, designs. They all have weird names. Zach Brown, like the Bighorn River Special, which is just a woolly bugger with rubber legs, and it's yellow and brown. There's the Red Death, which is just a black and white or black and red woolly bugger. There's so many different types. It's a great pattern to start on. Once you do a dozen or 2 dozen or whatever, I mean, they're really easy to learn. I've shown a lot of kids how to do them as young as 4 or 5 years old, and they can pick them up within 2 or 3 flies and get them going. So it's a great starter fly, and they work on everything. I mean, I was even reading this article about bone fishing, where guys are using buggers now bone fishing, which I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is. So extremely versatile. It's always the first fly I show people that are just starting out. Start with the woolly bugger and go from there.
Zach,
Anybody have any questions?
Well, I'd like to add to your woolly bugger thing. I think that was a perfect fly to show because you know, in freshwater, if you don't have that in your box anywhere in the world, you probably don't have enough flies because you fish it anywhere in the world in freshwater. But like you're saying, it can be fished in saltwater. You just tie different sizes, weight it a little differently, maybe definitely change the colors up and the flash. And it's truly, in my opinion, the most versatile fly on the planet. But
yeah,
I'm prejudiced because that's what I catch most of my fish on.
Yeah, they're basically what I started on when I decided to catch trout bigger than 6 inches. Is went to woolly buggers in Montana. Went, oh my God, I can catch fish that are not 6 inches long now. But I was a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
So definitely a go-to. Like you said, everybody should have a handful of these in their box because they do work on everything.
Hey, Guy and Wes, can you guys show the flies that you tied?
Yeah, so this last one, I'm going to do something real. There's another thing with the woolly bugger. If you get in a situation like I show up to a lake and I don't have damselflies, I'd take my nippers and just hack this thing all the way down to nubbins. So now I took my woolly bugger and I might even cut the tail off if I had to, but what I'm trying to do is create a damselfly and or dragonfly imitation. And I don't want all that big puff sometimes. Sometimes you got, you know, they get picky, you got to scale it down. And so don't be afraid to trim on any fly. If you're just struggling, you'd be surprised sometimes you go find same thing, but just go a little finer. And all of a sudden they decide, well, that's something I want to eat. I started out while Zach was tying the first one, and we used to call this the Connect Talk attorney, AKA egg sucking leech. But anyway, an attorney named that for me, not me. So, but I didn't have the right color thread chenille up front. Normally I'd use orange, but you can even stuff a bead on there, weighted bead, unweighted bead. And on the Connect Talk in particular, this was money. It was a stupid, big, giant, ugly thing. But if when in doubt, just throw one of these on, because sometimes they get weird on stuff and they stop eating flash, stop eating even the eggs. And they want something different. And I don't, we think this is a leech or a little minnow running off with an egg, and you just go with that. And anyway, it catches a lot of fish. But I had to use that for steelhead here in Oregon, summer and winter. So.
Very popular pattern. Yeah, egg sucking leech.
I don't have some of the materials that Zach has, but brown works well for me where the lakes and streams I fish in Washington. So I got brown stuff going.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Little green flash in there. Cool.
A little green flash in there. Yep.
Yeah. So, and then speaking of lakes around here, another variant you can do on something like that for lakes is if you can get jig fly hooks, and then when you cast those out with a bobber or just suspending them, they'll actually suspend more horizontal with that jig fly, and it's more of a leech-like look and feel to them. Another way to play around with them and make them better.
Yeah, that's a big thing in Oregon right now is those balanced leeches. Yeah, they even tie a little pin on just to kind of help extend the body in front of the where you're tying it on. It extends out in front of the eye of the hook. Yeah.
And I was a cynic about that, and I went out with a friend that had them, and he was the only person that caught fish that day.
Yeah,
it was because he had those suspended leech hooks.
Yeah, because you can fish them super slow, and they still stay horizontal, and they obviously imitate what the fish want to see. So.
Yep.
But it's definitely a new way of tying them.
Yep. Yeah. So I've been playing around with that a little bit. It's not as important for us in Alaska, of course, because we swing so much, but yeah. Zach Brown, is anybody fishing Montana right now? It is streamer season.
Yeah. Yeah. Bunch of people. I haven't been, but
no.
Yeah.
So they didn't close it down.
No.
No, it's just in Washington.
We can still recreate.
Good.
Just can't be in a group of 6.
When I was in college, this time of the year, we always fished the Madison or the Yellowstone with sculpins because apparently this is when they spawn, is this time of the year. And so like this guy here would be a go-to.
Yeah. Yeah. Right before the high water.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. No, yeah, fishing's been pretty decent around here. Just Rock Creek, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Are you showing me? Oh, shoot.
Speaking of which, Jeff Stuhan, what would be a go-to woolly bugger in Michigan for steelhead?
I was just grabbing one to show you.
Yeah.
Look at these. These flies have been working really good.
Yeah.
These
I
are
like the
just
short tail on that one, Jeff.
real eggs imitating eggs.
Man, that's the go-to woolly bugger.
That's a good. Yeah, I caught like some steelhead just the other day on them while I was doing some illegal motorboating.
Ooh, bad boy.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a shame.
I found one of my clients has a cabin on the river, so I launched my boat and just parked it at his house and took my trailer home.
Are they issuing tickets?
Not
Some-
around here. The
yeah.
other parts of the state, they're enforcing it pretty good, but around here, the DNR officer doesn't exactly agree with the ordinance, so he's
So they're-
not enforcing it here.
Kind of letting it slide.
Oh, good.
Bill, are you the one that's in Washington? Who was saying they're up in Washington?
Not me.
Oh, maybe who's on Deborah's iPad over there tying the fly?
Oh, that's Wes.
Hey, Wes.
Wes
You're
is
from
up there.
Washington, right? How you doing?
Yes. Good.
Yeah. So how do people feel about that whole thing of can't go out on the water?
That's crazy.
I heard you could go bird watching, but you couldn't go fishing. Is that true?
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know. It's lost on me. Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've always thought fly fishing was the ultimate personal distancing sport.
Exactly.
Yeah, here you can canoe, kayak, drift boat, but no power boat.
Really?
So if there were some like bioterrorist that had COVID-19 that was coming after you, you apparently have a better chance of getting away from him in your kayak than you do your motorboat.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I guess when you're taking a kayak to the river, you don't need to get gas in your vehicle, but if you have a motorboat, you need gas, so that's why they don't want you using them.
Yeah.
It makes a whole bunch of sense.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
It is very.
Hey, Bill, did you do any steelheading this year?
No, I didn't.
No.
Little fishing. It's been a kind of a raucous year. I got back from Alaska and it's just been crazy busy, so I haven't been fishing much. Just some stream fishing up in the Mono County.
Yeah. I'm curious how steelheading went in Washington this year.
It sounds like it was okay. I talked to Ryan Salusta a bit a
Yeah.
week ago, just after they got shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was shaping up good in Oregon on the coast anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah, even I hooked a steelhead this year in Oregon.
Nice.
And that's amazing.
It's strange times for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's going to all settle down soon.
Amen.
Get fishing.
Zach, can you show me the thread holder that you have that you're wrapping with? I don't really have. I'm completely new to fly tying, so I'm just curious how that.
This
looks.
thing?
Yeah.
Okay. This is just it's called a bobbin.
Okay.
And I wouldn't get the ones that are $1 a piece, but you don't need to spend $30 a piece on them either. Get one that's like $8-10.
Yeah.
Just something, and they'll try to sell you as like some super gimmicky thing. I'm not a huge fan. Just, your basic run of the mill is what I get. And then the other thing that I like as far as that goes too for scissors is Anvil, the name of the company that makes these.
Nice.
And I like them because I can wear them. And so I can use my fingers to do whatever. They never leave my hands. I never set them down, so they're always right there.
Uh-huh.
Have I poked myself in the eye and the face a few times? Yes. But I think it's worth it to save 30 seconds of fly.
One thing
Any
on the
other-
bobbin, just make sure you get one that has a little ceramic tip to it, and it'll save you from breaking off a lot of thread.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where the cheap ones don't have that, and it's just, that's the only thing to look for. But like you're saying, you know, $8 to $12, you have a nice bobbin that'll last you, you know, forever. So.
What other critical tools are there that like the absolutely have to have?
Well, good pair of scissors, maybe even, this is a hackle pliers to hold on to stuff while you wrap it. Also very cheap, very simple. Loon products out of, you know, Hairline W has those. And a good vise, because, you know, an investment in a good vise will save you a lot of frustration. I think Zach and I and everybody that ties a lot knows that if your vise is no good, you will be fighting it the whole time and it'll drive you crazy and you won't want to.
So the Montana Mongoose.
It's a great one.
Yeah, and so if you want to get one of those, it's called a Griffin. Griffin is the name of the company. Griffin Montana Mongoose. And you got, what do you got, a Regal?
No, this is a vintage Renzetti I inherited from the lodge in Mexico, and then I have a Traveler that I've had since my last Regal broke about 30 years ago. So I use a Renzetti Traveler that is really small. I think I might have it.
I have a Renzetti Traveler, the one with the big heavy base.
Well, you with the Renzettis, you can either use a heavy base or you can get the little clip-on thing to put on a table. But this is a Traveler, and this thing is like not even a half a pound. It's aluminum. You can throw it in your stuff. You can make a little kit. I have a little traveling kit I take when I go on an exotic trip, just in case I don't have what I'm supposed to have. And but I found this to be really reliable. I'm not going to crank out commercial flies with it, but for just tying for your own box, just even something like this is totally fine. I like both of them have the ability to turn it around, do the whole 360 thing.
Yeah.
And especially when you're learning, this is kind of nice because you can see how you don't get it perfect on both sides, and it starts helping you learn what you're doing wrong as you go, and or adjust things and just look at it. It's kind of fun. But there's a lot of good vices out there, I think.
Yeah, if you're doing stuff with hair or wool, like deer hair or wool, spinning it becomes really important because then it's easier to cut everything and work it all in.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, have you tied flies before?
No.
Okay, might get into it though.
Yeah, I would like to. It's it's just something that seems a natural progression.
Yeah,
so.
Within fly fishing, Bill, I think to me, I got into this whole sport and commercially based on tying flies as a little kid. I got lessons when I was 10. And the biggest thrill then and still today is when I tie my own fly, then I go out to the river or lake or wherever I was going to go, and I catch a fish on my fly. To this day, I still love that more than anything. So,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it really connects you from point A to point B on fly fishing because you've thought about how to imitate it, you crafted it, you went out and cast it, and you got rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really the full deal. So
cool.
And I'll have all this stuff with me again up at this summer, Bill. So if you're making it up, I will. I'll bust it out and we can do some stuff one-on-one if you want.
Sounds great. Hey, I'm not sure we're making it this summer. It may be next year, but
okay,
possibly. I don't know if Sarah still needs that building jacked up, but I'm still game if she's wanting to do it.
Nice.
Yeah, the one that's falling for the
season.
The pilot shack.
Anyway, okay, guys.
Hey, thanks, Zach.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, thanks for everybody that joined today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Zach.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good rest of their day.
See you, Zach.
All right.
Cheers.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, all.
Hey, Wes.
See ya. Thanks.
Bye, guys.